Claim your free AirPods today by clicking the first link in the description down below.
r/AskReddit. Those who have weird neighbors. What does your neighbor do that is weird or creepy? We built a fence on our property line, a few feet into ours actually, and the night it was finished I hear banging outside. I go to the sunroom we have downstairs and see a headlamp moving back and forth quickly. I go outside and see my neighbor throwing lead pipes into our fence screaming, "Can you see me now?" and kept repeating that over and over again. Soon after he spots me and runs back inside. What the duck? Who has lead pipes these days? Edit. Yes. Flint still has lead pipes. I get it. I mean, who has lead pipes laying around in easily hurled lengths? I'm curious about what their job actually is. Colonel Mustard. I'm pretty sure I'm the weird neighbor. But one time I farted pretty loudly and my downstairs neighbor laughed. I just moved into a new city apartment block when one of my neighbors farted while I was inside the elevator with him. It broke the ice. My neighbors are foreign nationals from China, and I don't think they quite understand the concept of a BBQ. I was standing on my balcony one afternoon when my neighbors burst out onto their patio quite loudly and break out a great big grocery bag full of meat. Whole Foods bag by the look of it. So one can imagine the meat wasn't cheap. Dude turns up the heat and throws about 7-8 steaks on the grill. Straight. No seasoning. No nothing. Puts the cover back on. Then walks back inside. About 5 minutes and the meat smell is wafting my way. I'm not complaining, because it smells pretty good. 20 minutes later, and I'm getting worried, because it is well overdue for this guy to flip the steaks. Nothing. Another 20 minutes. Those steaks are definitely suffering by now. The meat smell is still there, but it's starting to smell a bit charred. Nothing. Another hour and a half goes by and these steaks are definitely charcoal by now. The smell of meat has gone. And it has been replaced by the smell of charcoal and propane. I'm guessing the tank has run out, because I have the same Weber grill and it only fits one tank inside. I hear the guy's Porsche Macan pull back into his garage and the whole family bursts out with leftover bags from some woos. Guy goes back to the grill. Opens it up to witness a bunch of bricks of inedible hunks of charcoal. Takes some selfies and pulls them off and throws them on the grass. Ducking what the actual duck? Sounds like he just disposed of a body. The selfies were proof that the job was done XD. Across the street, neighbor feeds the stray cats outside. After he empties the food on their plate, he runs his fingers inside of the can and licks the remaining cat food off his fingers. Such a small, inconsequential thing to do, and yet definitely the most disgusting I've read so far. Probably helps him sleep through all the cat noises outside at night. The people who live next to me like to invite all the other neighbors over for BBQ and whatnot. When I first moved in it was the only time they had come over to invite me. I'm not super sociable, so I politely declined. Once I'm home I enjoy my solitude. Probably my own fault though for choosing an apartment complex that tries to promote community. Apparently the fact I wasn't in the mood to socialize must have deeply offended them, considering they spread a rumor around the neighborhood that I'm a drug addicted ex-convict. That's not what's creepy though. What's creepy is how every time I take my dog for a walk, my neighbors will come outside and just glare at me with crossed arms. It's the consistency with how they do it too. It could be 3 AM and here comes the husband in his underwear to give me dirty looks. This sounds like a beginning of a comedy movie or a horror movie. There is an old man constantly out only in his boxers and he yelled at my family member for laughing in our pool. Sometimes I wonder at what age I would have become this man if I hadn't met my wife and started a family. There's still time. They could die or leave you. Don't give up hope. Not at all creepy. Just weird. My neighbor landscapes my yard. We have like 90 square foot townhouse yards. And I guess he can't get enough yard work out of his. So far he's installed some stone paths, put in a retaining wall in the front, and now he's planting stuff in the wild area. I hate yard work so much I pay a service to keep my macro yard lit up to city code. So I've told him whatever he wants to do is fine. Still super weird to come home from work and find a new feature in front of my house. I think that's kind of cute at the same time. Only if consent is involved. And if he's credible. My sister/bro-in-law hated their neighbor. He was a weird pedo type. They had some contractors build a fence in their backyard. He came out into his backyard mid-build and injected one of the guys building the fence in the butt cheek with what he called vitamins. We flipped hit. He ran away. When they cleared out his house they found a hitload of child porn. Like Polaroids. It was very bad. Wow. Was the guy who got injected okay? Did the neighbor go to jail? He was fine. Granted. After a lot of blood tests and hit. And no. Never prosecuted, but there is quite the case built around him. I have these neighbors that live way behind me. Down a long and secluded driveway. They aren't really weird per se. But a nice. Country. Elderly couple in their late 80s/early 90s. Save for one odd habit of his. He kills buzzards and wires their decomposing bodies to his fence. I discovered this when I took my toddler son back there to trick or treat his first time. We are walking down that longest driveway of fizz and hay. Looky there. Big as dead buzzards. Wings outstretched to the fullest. Decomposing on the fence. I was just like, well, that's not something you see every day, and went right onto their door. Dearly wanting to ask about them. I couldn't be like, trick or treat. What's up with the buzzards? Vultures, buzzards, stay away from other dead vultures. They may be killing any livestock he had, or tearing up his vehicle/house. This is a good way to scare them off without killing more. Generally people just use decoys. Especially because it's illegal to kill some types of vultures without permits. But that is the correct answer. Works for many other intelligent birds as well, such as European magpies, crows and ravens. So I had a neighbor, 80 or more, widowed guy. Every time I get the newspaper delivered to my mailbox, when I open it, I find the crosswords done. I don't do them, or give a damn. A day I decided to try catch who's doing my crosswords. Day 1. 8 AM. They were already done. Day 2. 7:30 AM already done. Day 3. 7 AM I decide to give up. One day. 4 AM. I was getting back home from a night out. While I was passing by the mailbox, nothing yet delivered. So I placed my GoPro inside and went sleeping. The next day, finally got it. It was my neighbor. He has done the crosswords right up on my mailbox. For like 10 minutes, I will try to find the video. But it was absolutely cute. Staring at my door time to time. And scratching his head. Next day, I took him a 1000 crosswords book. Drop it right his door. Rang the bell, and stayed on my car discreetly. He took some time to open the door. Then found it. I swear it was the happiest person, like a kid that got a puppy. He stayed in his porch and passed like 2 hours doing crosswords, then fell asleep lol. The next day, I was getting back home from work. He came to apologize, like a kid that has to confess something, and brought some cookies. We stayed talking about his WW2 service and how the world changed. I frequently bought him crosswords books. Until he passed away 1 year ago. May he rest in peace. Edit. I just received a gold Reddit. I don't know what exactly it does, but thank you very much for whom is behind that. Beautiful. Not so much creepy. Just weird. I've lived in my current place for a few years now. My upstairs neighbors moved in about 2 years ago, and they're interesting people. When they first moved in, they would have really loud ex. Their bedroom is right above mine. I wasn't bothered by this because it's an apartment. You get used to that hit, and B, they did it in the evening. So it wasn't like they were waking anyone up. I always left it alone. One night a few months into their first year, I was trolling around on the top floor outside because the gutter was clogged and the apartment maintenance team is slow as it. So I was unclogging it myself with a yardstick. My upstairs neighbor came out onto the deck and I nearly scared the hit out of him. But I told him I was just the downstairs neighbor and he relaxed. We got to talking. And then he suddenly got nervous and said, "Hey, me and my girl, we aren't disturbing you, are we?" I laughed and said, "No. I get it. I have a boyfriend too." He said, "Okay. But we'll still try to keep it down." and he went back inside. Ever since then, they've played loud music every time they have X to try and cover it up. It's kind of adorable. They had music playing for 6 hours over the weekend one day, and I gave my neighbor a grin and a thumbs up the next day when I ran into him. That thumbs up made you the creepy neighbor. Clicks and does finger guns while winking. Not my neighbor but a friend's. Lady used to put her car in neutral and push it down the driveway because she said it saved her $ on gas. Same lady would also get on her hands and knees and trim her yard with scissors after the lawn care company was done. I had a friend who did the grass thing. We aren't friends anymore for myriad reasons. Like because she cuts her grass with scissors? Oh, I just remembered. I also have a neighbor that collects PT Cruisers. He's got at least 6 of them and washes them all the time. Seems like a weird car to collect. They aren't vintage or anything. Edit. It's funny that everyone thinks this neighbor is weirder than the one who leaves gaping holes in his house. The only car more weird to collect would be the Pontiac Aztec. Knew a guy who did that. Had a bunch in his drive. Was kinda sad to see them go when he moved. I've caught my neighbor probably like 5-6 times just staring at me through the window with complete focus. Edit. Thank you all for making this the peak of my existence. My neighbors have a tent in their backyard. The tent is listed on Airbnb. Edit. Wisconsin. It's sadly gone now, and I can't find the photo. I would post it and ask any stalkers use the side door if they come to murder me. But if I find it, I'll post it. It's damn near winter here, so it must not have been an all-season Coleman tent. This is the best one. Insert words. I knew the tent was there as I can see it from my backyard, but a buddy moved into another apartment next to the tent owners, and he told me about the Airbnb part. My wife and I live in a large apartment complex in Chicago. I'm not sure which apartment this guy actually lives in, but I always see him zooming out of the courtyard. We call him Future Man. Future Man does not speak or walk or try to fit into society in any way. He is easily 6'7" and weighs at least 275 pounds. He wears sunglasses at night and I've never seen him actually walk. He rides everywhere on one of those 2-wheeled hoverboard thingies, and at night straps rope lights to his torso that flash incredibly bright red and green light. Sometimes he also has a little Bluetooth speaker clipped to his backpack that blasts some pretty solid 80s/90s hip hop. He does not slow down. He drives it mostly on the road and does not observe such things as stop signs or stoplights. We have lived in this apartment complex for 5 years and just 2 weeks ago he acknowledged me for the first time. He simply gave me a head nod and put his hand into a fist, as if to say you're okay with me. He said nothing in actuality, but I'm still beaming from the experience. He's my favorite neighbor. But he is weird. Future Man sounds ducking awesome. That's because he's from the future and he just wants to live a new life in this time. He ain't no time for stoplights or talking. My neighbor sets off huge fireworks in the street throughout the year and just shoves the remains/trash down the sewer. Take that, Pennywise. Call the people who are in charge of the sewers. We got tired of my jerk neighbor pouring his used oil down the storm sewer. We made an anon complaint and they were easily able to track it to his house. They should be able to track this debris to his house too. Especially if you call the same day he's setting them off. They likely will threaten a lawsuit. Bingo. Friend did this to a neighbor in his home down 4 needles that would screw up the city plumbing. Didn't take long to figure out which house. We are pretty sure that the lady who lives across from us is a high-end prostitute. We're in a good neighborhood, but she has a wide variety of older men visit her at all hours of day. She's the only person on the block who doesn't come to our block parties or socialize. But once she asked my neighbor to mow her lawn and, upon completion, decided not to pay him because the work wasn't of a good enough quality. It was actually decent. And he was 12 years old. For heaven's sake. We now refer to her as that lady and everybody knows who we are talking about. I've got a guy in my building who's a male prostitute. Except unlike yours, he's super sweet and a really nice neighbor. We all like him a lot. Which is why we just overlook the fact that he gets like 6 male visitors a day and they all stay only 15-30 minutes before leaving. The weird neighbor in our building is the one that makes puppets and tries to get everyone evicted. Oh. And also the old guy we thought killed his elderly roommate to keep her disability checks. The prostitute is fine. Maybe he's just really popular on Grindr.